John, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, what you built here with SupraHuman is something I think that's never been done in the fitness industry. So I'm excited to kind of unpack a lot of that story and journey here today. But I've heard you call yourself or describe yourself as the most hated person in the fitness industry. What do you mean when you say that? And why would that be a badge of honor? I think a lot of people wouldn't be able to hold that identity.
For much of my life, I was like this lovable underdog, right? I never played high school football, decided on a whim to walk on to a junior college, made it, transferred to my dream school as a walk-on who earned a scholarship. We ended up my junior year ranked number 4 in the nation, won the Fiesta Bowl. Overnight, NFL agents started, calling me, 100 of them, and telling me that I was going to be a high draft pick and whatnot. And 3 games to go my senior year, I break my leg and I can't run for 12 months. And so instead of getting drafted, I got $5,000 and a plane ticket to go try out in Oakland. So I get to Oakland and I was a wide receiver. And so about at this time, I'm 6'5", 225 pounds, a big receiver. But because of my leg and the injury, I had lost a little bit of my speed. I wasn't fully healed yet when I got to training camp. So after a couple days of practice, the owner, who was Al Davis, was still alive. He came in and he said, "John, if you're going to make this team, you're going to do it at tight end." And I'm like, well, okay, never played tight end before. I was number 9 on the depth chart. So how the NFL works, usually 2 to 3 tight ends are kept on the opening day roster. And so I got put in this meeting room where I was number 9. I had never played the position. I had just come off a crazy leg break. And I didn't even know how to read a defense like a tight end is supposed to, right? There's about 4 weeks of training camp before the roster is set. And so I was like this crazy long shot who day by day just kept leapfrogging some of these veterans, played 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, guys making millions of dollars. And by the roster cuts, I made the team as a tight end. And so I played in the NFL for 3 years, lived a childhood dream, scored a couple touchdowns, but I was married to this. My identity was rooted in this underdog story, like this lovable underdog. I just wanted to be humble. That was like my true nature, right? And so when I started my business, when I got cut, it's like everyone was always rooting for me, I felt like, because I was never the star. It wasn't like I was even all-state in high school. It was like I was this underdog who believed in myself enough to keep on going, far beyond most people quitting. And people really like that, and they especially like it when you're a guy and you're fairly humble. So the problem with that, though, is it wasn't serving my goals for the rest of my life. And so when I got cut, I started a gym in Salt Lake City, 2010, struggled all the way until 2018. It was fun. I trained thousands of people. It was great. But if I opened up my laptop and, looked at the bank accounts, wasn't the type of life that I envisioned for myself. And so before this business took off, there was this breakthrough that I had to go through, that I had to divorce this lovable underdog and come out to the marketplace just authentic to me, say whatever I wanted to say, be free in how I expressed myself. And the scary part about that for most people is unconsciously they'll choose to be liked over success. And I'm not saying it has to be one or the other, but there's usually this moment that if you're really going to explode on the marketplace, you see anybody out there who has any popularity and you look at their comments on Instagram or social, and there's just hater after hater after hater diminishing everything that they've ever built, right? Out of envy, right? And so I got to this point where I realized that I can't make everybody happy anyways. So I might as well stop trying. And what was happening in the fitness industry is we were getting a ton of people that were interested, but all these people, most of the people were leads that didn't have the means to pay for the program. And so my marketing message started to hard qualify people based on their income. It's like, hey, if you make at least 150 grand, I have a program that will solve your problem. I'm so direct that it's almost shocking in the videos. I'm not like a performative type of person that loves the camera. So my style of advertising is look into the camera, say exactly what I want to say so that nobody, has any confusion about what I'm saying, and just spit it, the truth. And it was so shocking, that message, when it came out. It's like, well, what is making 150 grand have to do with fitness? I'm like, nothing. People in the comments would be like, dude, I know guys in prison that are jacked and they have no money. I'm like, never said you couldn't get jacked without 150K. All I said, if you want my help, it comes with a financial tag. We are specifically for entrepreneurs and executives who have very busy lives, because I'm an entrepreneur, and I'll solve rich people problems better than anybody, right? And overnight, that message was not well received by 95% of the people. And it was hard for me, because my whole life I was used to being loved. I was used to being the lovable underdog, and now I'm hated. And usually what happens with people when that happens is they retreat. They're like, I didn't mean to say that. Or they're like, I'm going to go back to being loved, because it's safer, right? Evolutionary, biology, it's safer to be in the group than stand outside of it. And what I didn't do was apologize. What I didn't do was retreat. What I did is, I leaned in very, very hard. And, people would do these videos about me and what a douchebag I was, and all this stuff. And the more they did it, the more that I just leaned in. And so I feel like, the movie The Dark Knight, I didn't really, and I'm not comparing myself to Batman, but that movie, when it came out, I didn't really understand it. I'm like, why would someone hate a hero? But there's a time in everybody, and I'm saying everybody has a hero's journey that fulfills it all. Most people stop, right? So most people don't live the hero's journey. They stop it. For me, I'm going to complete the hero's journey, and the villain arc is part of it. And so for the past 3 years, I'm living my villain arc and enjoying it very, very much, because the people who this is for, they love me on the inside, and I get plenty of love from the 115 employees that we have and the thousands of clients that are in the program. And if people outside of that, they don't understand it, I'm just good with it. And I think most people retreat, so they never get to experience the success that comes after that.
Patrick McDavid wrote a book called Choose Your Enemies Wisely, and he poses the idea there that through the business planning process, that the piece that most people miss is the enemy, whether it's a particular person, a person from their past, somebody within the marketplace that they're fighting against. Would you say that this villain arc identity that you've embraced is you placing the fitness industry, the marketplace, as your enemy, or are you positioning you as the enemy versus the market?
Yeah, so I'm very competitive. When I was a kid, my family would play Uno, and if I lost, I'd get so pissed I'd cry, right? It's my sister, my mom and dad. A lot of people, I've heard lately, a lot of people on podcasts, philosophically thinking that competitiveness means scarcity, right? And I'm like, okay, tell that to Kobe Bryant, tell that to Michael Jordan, tell that to anybody great that you've ever thought was great. It's like a competitive spirit is like fuel for success. And so I've always been competitive. And so in the fitness industry, I don't have I don't keep a lot of people close. A lot of people in the fitness industry or whatever industry, they're close, they're boys, they're friends. And it's not like I don't like people in the fitness industry. It's just that business is a sport to me, and they're the opponent. And so to Patrick's point, I am very competitive because I want to be the best. And so even for people, and there's a lot of great people that I really genuinely like. If they were in real estate, we'd live together and be boys. But because they're competing in what I perceive as my arena, I'm like, you're cool, no problem with you, but it's I'm going to hold you at a distance, and I'm not going to get too close because I'm competing. And so I agree with, what he's saying. And I would say that I have positioned myself kind of against everybody playing in my arena. And I've positioned myself, to your point, I've just positioned myself as that villain. If people want to paint me as it, I'm like, cool, I'll pose.
Yeah, I agree with you we all go through this hero's journey. I think it's a story of every single person's life. Very few, though, I think recognize it. big part of that journey, though, I think, is losing your way and finding a mentor or a guide. And in your journey, whether it was through college sports, I know JUCO to Urban Meyer at Utah, maybe getting to the NFL. You mentioned Al Davis was one that kind of changed your identity from receiver to tight end, or even in this more recent part of your story. Was there a mentor guide that played a significant role in John's story?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge part of the hero's journey, right? That mentor appears, whether it's like Karate Kid and you have Mr. Miyagi, right? And when the Karate Kid gets trained by Mr. Miyagi, he's like, why am I doing this wax on, wax off? Like, I want to do karate, but he's washing cars, right? And it's like you have these wise mentor figures in any great story, right? And sometimes they're unorthodox in a way. And so for me, when you struggle in business, I remember having everybody, say, like, it's mindset, it's mindset, it's mindset. I'm like, bro, my mindset's fine. Like, I made the NFL and I never played the sport in high school. Like, I promise you, mindset's not the problem. Like, there's a skill set problem, which was true, but it wasn't the full truth. And so fast forward to 2018, after opening a business in 2010 and really kind of struggling to, like I said, reach all of my financial goals, I started to think that maybe people were right, that there was a mindset problem. And so I went on a journey. I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within, walked on fire, did the whole chanting thing, pounding my chest, jumped all night. Have you ever been to one of those?
I haven't been to Tony's events.
Yeah,
No,
it's actually epic. But, going back to 2016, I started to explore the idea that maybe I didn't have it all figured out. And so that opened the door wider, and it's almost like an Easter egg hunt, right? It's like I found Tony, then I found Bob Proctor, then I found these, all the books, then I found Alex Hormozy, then I found all these people, and eventually at kind of the breaking point, there was this like weird, mysterious, Asian dude who was a master of NLP, right? He was a master of NLP, and I had learned what NLP even was, neuro-linguistic programming, because that's Tony's background, Tony Robbins. And so I was very interested in it. And he's this hypnotist guy, right? And I lived in Utah, he lived in Utah, so we got connected. I went to dinner with him. And at the time, his coaching program was 25 grand one-on-one. And so we had dinner, and he's talking about the subconscious mind and, the reason behind X, Y, and Z. And I just had this feeling, I'm like, I got to work with this guy, right? The problem was that me and my wife, I had spent a shit ton of money on coaching programs before. So Tony Robbins was on a credit card. Me and my wife went. And at the end of that, Unleash the Power Within, just like any funnel that never ends, right? He had everyone laying down, you're envisioning your dream life. Everybody's in deep hypnotic trance. And then he snaps you out of it, and there's business mastery for 15 grand. And everyone runs to the back of the room. People are financing it. It's crazy, bro. It's madness. And we were one of those people. So it's like on credit cards, Alex Hormozy on credit card, other fitness coaches on credit card. And I swore to my wife at this point, because we had a 1-year-old daughter now at this point, 2018-ish. And we had $50,000 in our bank account. That was it. And I'm like, that's rainy day fund. I'm not touching it. My wife at the time was a VP, of a tech company. So she was like holding the fort down too, while my gym struggled. And then I got presented 25 grand to work with him in person, 101. And for the two of us, it was 40 grand. And so we leave the dinner, and I get him in the truck, and I was just like, man, I don't know what to do. And she's like, if you're going to do it all. She's like, we're going to do it all. And so the next day, guy comes over to the house. I wrote $40,000 check, wrote it in red ink to signify blood, that whatever he told me to do, I was going to do. And as he came over, I remember kind of trembling as I handed him the check. I'm like, now we only have 10 grand. We have a 1-year-old baby, and it's got to work. And so, very long story short, this dude he broke my understanding of reality in the best of ways. And so that was kind of the last mentor that I needed to really unlock my perception of what reality actually was made up of. And so we went into details about how, a lot of people think reality is reality. It's like, well, this happened, but why does everyone perceive it different? Well, they perceive it different based on the decisions, their beliefs, the programming, all this stuff, and a lot of it was inserted in you from the ages of 0 to 7. So we have all these people walking around in the world who believe certain things that they don't even really have control over. It lives inside of them in their unconscious mind, and we explored how to extract all the mind viruses that was in there, and it set me free. And so that was like, that unlocked a part of me, and that was, you know, that weird mysterious mentor figure that lives in all hero's journey, was this weird mysterious Asian dude that was an NLP master, linguistic master, and this hypnotist that just took me on a journey for a couple months. So yeah, that was the dude.
No, that's amazing. It doesn't sound like he's a massive media guy, local to Utah.
Most people don't know him. When I moved to Scottsdale, he moved to Scottsdale, so he's out here in Scottsdale.
Okay.
Right now, if someone wanted him one-on-one, it's like $500,000. He doesn't do that. Like, that program that I'm talking about does not exist. Yeah. Right? It doesn't exist. He has some like group masterminds that are, you know, high-end pricing. Works with, he's not a social media guy, so it's like his information is not broadcast on social. So I just happened to be in Utah. He was in Utah. I saw a friend post something on Instagram about, you know, NLP certification. And I was like, who is this guy? It's like, you got to do it. So, you know, that was my luck of the draw.
When the student is ready, the master will appear, right?
Exactly.
I'm curious your thoughts on this. You know, you mentioned the Tony Robbins, the Proctors, years and years. I think when you spoke at Vince's event last year, you put up like your entire, you know, investment fund. And at that point, I think it was close to $1 million that you'd invested in yourself. Probably prior to working with this NLP guy, you'd probably spent a significant amount of money. So that information was maybe locked inside of you. Do you feel doing all that work prior, then shifting the reality, is what allowed you to hockey stick success out of it?
Yeah, so a couple components. There's a skill set component, right? Which a lot of people, they want to go down this journey, and it's like mindset, all this stuff. And if there's no actual skill or mastery in the thing, they're gonna struggle, right? So it's like mindset's part of it, skill set's another part of it. And in my case, because I had started the gym in 2010, like, fitness at this point had been a part of my life for, you know, 8 years, 9 years. And so there was a mastery that I had built in that domain. And then as far as business is concerned, we went on this run, 2020, 2021, 2022, and then up to this point. It was, you know, it was really like 3 million, 8 million, 26 million. We'll end this year at near 50 million. But there's a scaling component too. So another part of this hockey stick is the other half that not a lot of people see, which my wife Nineveh is the CEO of this company. And she became the CEO back in 2021-ish, right around that time, 2021, 2022. Most founders are what I would describe as glorified hustlers. They know how to go transact. They have an idea. They can bring it into creation. They can get to $1 to $5 million a year. It's like they have that spark, but usually people get buried in that zone. 1 to 5 million, I think, is very dangerous for a lot of founders, because you're good enough to be dangerous, but you're not really good enough to understand massive scale, systems, operations, all of that stuff. And it's usually like founders are usually probably better at like the marketing and sales, and, you know, if they're an expert in their product, they have a lot of say in that. But again, there's a lot more that goes into business when you hit that 1 to 5 range. And so Nineveh came in, and she was a VP of a company prior for 8 years. She rode, she was on the ride and was a big part of it. Another company that essentially went from 2 million to, you know, beyond around 50. So she had already seen it. She had already seen it, right? And she's that other part of the brain. Not that she doesn't have the vision or the creation magic. She has that too, but she is a savage at business. And so most founders don't ever find that other half. And usually it doesn't come in, you know, a husband-wife combo. Sometimes it does. I was lucky that it did.
Yeah.
But like some of the biggest businesses, there's that other person that was behind the scenes, that was doing all the stuff that people didn't see, that made scale inevitable.
Yeah.
And so I had both pieces. So it was skill set, it was mindset, it was a whole lot of belief and grit, and it was also I had the right person.
It's that rocket fuel model, and I think you mentioned Hormozy. I think as a mentor, it's very similar to that dynamic and what he built with Layla, both at Gym Launch
Exactly.
and what they're doing today. You mentioned in your come up, obviously you had the NFL career where you were the success breadwinner there, but there was that period of stretch where you were building and maybe struggling your way through the gym. I think you mentioned Nineveh was kind of the one holding it all together. I think we have a lot of young guys that are going to listen to this or watch this, and they're trying to find their ways. Early 20s, maybe early 30s, really getting started in business. A lot of men wait till they have it all figured out, thinking that's when they're going to find the right partner. Can you talk to the importance of having a support system, a foundation at home, and the role that the relationship with Nineveh played while you were out there, kind of finding your way in business?
Yeah, it's hard, man. If you're in if people are in a relationship, the difficulty is a lot of times that person doesn't really support the dream, right? They don't believe in the guy enough, or maybe the guy doesn't believe in the girl enough. And so they kind of squash the ambition, right? It's like, no, like, we're not going to do that. Get a job, put food on the table, and that's what we're going to do. Because people have a tendency to want to play it safe. So to Nineveh's credit, she believed in me enough to do whatever she had to do to keep the dream alive. Right. And so huge, enormous amount of respect, obviously, and love that I have for her to do that, because I know it's not normal. Mm-hmm. I run into guys all the time where it's like, wife over here is not supportive of even a guy going on a fitness improvement journey, let alone going to chase this crazy business dream. And so if you have that, hang on to it. Right. And that goes both ways. Sometimes it's the guy, that's empowering the female with a crazy vision. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I'm just a believer that that support system is absolutely one of the best things a person can have. What if you don't have it, though? Right. What if you don't have it? Well, then you have a choice. Yeah. You either listen and squash your own ambition and play it safe, or you go out there and prove the person wrong and probably find a new person. Yeah. Right. And so both of those realities exist. I would just tell guys, the ones that have that ambition, it's like almost this voice that whispers, to keep taking that next step. And sometimes you think you're insane, right? It's like, why do I keep freaking doing this? Like, when I was in the fitness industry, I'm like, why did I choose fitness? Like, nobody's rich in fitness. It's like, I had people that were college roommates that were into real estate or commercial real estate or selling X, Y, and Z medical sales devices, and they're pulling in $200K a year, $250K a year, and I'm sitting there, looking at my P&L at the end of the year for fitness, thinking I could have made more money, working at McDonald's, all the hours that I put in. Like, am I crazy? And so I think for some of the guys out there, you just got to know you're not alone. Anybody who's ever made it has had years of, am I crazy to continue to do this bullshit before you break through. And the sad reality is, like, I don't think I'm more talented or more skilled than so many people. I mean, how many people in the world are more fit? They have more charisma. They have X, Y, and Z more than me. But what they don't have is the resilience not to quit. And so they quit, and I just kept going. And if you do that, you wake up 15 years, 20 years, however long it takes, and you're looking down on everybody because they quit.
Was that something that for you was taught at home? Like, coming up playing sports, I'm assuming athlete wise, like, you had probably very supportive parents taking you here, there, everywhere. Even the story with not playing high school football, walking onto JUCO, like, there was a belief within yourself. Like, what role did your upbringing? Can you talk about the early years of John?
Yeah. My parents were, like, my dad was my coach. My mom was out there throwing the baseball with me. She was a tennis coach. Like, both parents were heavily involved. My dad's a truck driver. He retired at 50 because he worked at the same company from 19 to 50. Hated I watched him hate every year, like, every day, right? Yeah. He hated every day, but he got home. He went to work at 4 a.m. He was home by 3:30 so that he could coach me at 4. And he did that for me and my sister. And I watched, that commitment to this, like, he's doing something that he absolutely hates as a means to an end. So he gets to, he gets to get give me the gift of having a present father and, someone coaching me in all my athletic stuff. And so I learned the grit and resilience from watching both my parents. My mom was a hairdresser. She had a hair salon, but it was like, it was her in there just working crazy hours too. So I learned that from both my parents, and they always instilled this idea that, whatever I wanted to do, I could do if I put my heart into it. Right. So they never laughed or, tried to dissuade me when I said I wanted to be a professional athlete. They're like, great, go practice. Right. And so, obviously not everybody has that background too. And then as I was chasing down this dream of becoming a professional athlete, I was at graduation in high school with no scholarship offers. And in my head, I still thought I was going to be a professional athlete. So the next logical step was I was a basketball player and baseball player. I enrolled at this junior college. I had a basketball highlight tape that I was going to go and hand to the basketball coach and see if I could walk on. Next logical step. And I went up there and I handed him the tape and he said, John, there's no room on my roster. So if you want to play college basketball, you got to do it somewhere else. He didn't look at the tape. And so my dad looked at me and said, what do you want to do? And I said, let's go talk to the football coaches. I had played from the time I was 10 years old and I stopped in 10th grade. And so he looked at me like I was a little bit crazy in that moment, but I walked into the football coach's office, handed him a basketball tape and said, look, I haven't played high school in 3 years. I'm 6'5", 200 something pounds, and I'm athletic. And so the guy put the highlight film in, and it was just like 4 minutes of me dunking basketball 360. So they're like, shit, this kid is athletic. They're like, look, you can try out. Can't promise you anything, but you can try out. So I tried out, made the team, redshirted that year because I didn't know shit about playing football, transferred to Utah, then did the NFL thing. And so I built this like crazy belief in myself. Like, who does that, right? But then I got cut at 27 years old, right? I got cut, I got sent home, and about a year later, I get a call. And at this point I had already, like, right after my NFL career, there was a new league called the UFL. Won't go into, long story about this. Played in the UFL for a year to get back to the NFL. So the UFL thing, played it. It ended in November. And at that point, no NFL teams were calling. So I'm like, okay, dream's over. What am I going to do? And so I went back to Salt Lake City. I had this idea to create this training a sports performance company where I could train high school athletes who were just like me. I knew that I could give them something. No understanding of business, didn't know what an LLC was versus an S Corp versus C Corp, was just like, I'm going to open up this business and this is what I'm going to do. Ordered a couple $100,000 of equipment, which, I didn't have a ton of money from the NFL because I was, I never reached that second contract and I was an undrafted guy. So I had about 300 grand left. Of 150 of it went into opening this gym, and the other 150 was like saved up to, try to get me as far as I could go. So anyways, I order the equipment, and then around my 27th birthday, I get a call, and it's my agent, and he's like, hey, the Detroit Lions want to fly you out for a tryout. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, I'm done. Like I'm over it. I'm moving on with the second part of my life. And he's like, John, don't burn any bridges. Go to this tryout. I'm telling you, go to this tryout. And I'm like, all right, I'll go to the tryout, but I'm not going to play, right? So I get on this plane reluctantly. I fly out to Detroit, and I get there, and there's 6 other tight ends. And the GM is like, look, guys, we're a little short at the position, and we're going to sign someone today. So you're going to go. So what happens is these guys will run you through a workout. Sometimes it's combine-like, sometimes they do whatever, but they usually measure every part of you. It's like, how long is your finger from your thumb to your pinky? They'll measure it. And it's like, pull up your shorts so that we can take a picture of your quad development. They take a picture. Pull up your shorts in the back so we can see your glute development. They're treating you like you're an animal, right? And then after that, they take you out on the field and you do whatever they want. And so the very first thing that we did was they wanted us to run a 40. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in a locker room, and these, people are obviously nervous. This is the biggest job interview of guys' life. We were all on the street, not on a roster. Some of us had played a couple years. Some of the people were in college trying, this was their shot. So these guys are like rolling around on the ground, foam rolling, doing stretches, doing all this shit. And I'm just like sitting there on the seat. And they're like, bro, are you going to stretch? I'm like, nah, dude, like, I'm fine. You know, I'm like, I'm over this already. So I watch them run, and I'm like, my strength was speed. And so I watch all 5 dudes run, and I'm like, fuck, man, they're gonna sign me, no question. And so I get down to my stance, I run the 40. GM comes around, he's like, we knew you were fast, we didn't know you were that fast. Run one more 40, they cut the workout short, sent everybody home, and brought me up to sign a contract. I call my agent, I'm like, I told you I'm not going to sign here. I just signed a 5-year lease on this building. I ordered all this equipment. My mind was in that business. And I'm like, so unless they're going to give me a couple $100,000, which is never going to happen when they pull someone off the street, right? And so he's like, okay, if that's your decision, just know it's final. So I went back into the office. They looked at me like I'm crazy. They're like, are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm like, I'm 100% sure. Thanks for the opportunity. They're like, can you just practice with us one time? Practice with us tomorrow. See if this is something you really want to exit. So I'm like, fine. They put me up in a hotel. I practiced the next day. As I put the helmet on, I knew it was the last time I was going to put my helmet on, and had one of the best practices I ever had in my 3-year NFL career. I was just like, I don't care what happens, right? Had fun, knew that it was coming off. And so after that practice, I left, and if you look up my name on Wikipedia, it's like Detroit Lions, and it was a 1-day contract. The contract though was for $500,000, right? I didn't get paid that, obviously, but it's like if I signed and made the team, I would still have to go through the preseason and make the team. It was worth $500,000, and I walked away from it because my heart wasn't into it. And I remember much later, it didn't really hit me. It's like I quit on my dream, right? And so this idea of not quitting before I reach my potential, I think back on this moment, not out of regret, but it's like I quit the NFL. And so there's this feeling sometimes that I get that like I quit before my time was done. And it's one of those things that I've learned now. It's like I'll never do that shit again. And so that was a very long-winded answer. It's like, why do you have this resilience in this part of your life? It's like, well, because I feel like I let myself down right at that moment.
Is that fueling? Obviously, you said it is, because you're not going to let that happen again. And how much of what this NLP Asian guy, unlocked for you, like, was subconsciously, were you not going to live up to your potential in business because you were maybe not aware of it, but holding on to the identity of a quitter? And how many people are stuck in that glass ceiling with themselves? Most people don't live up to their potential in their 20s, and they're holding on to a belief, an identity. Like, was that had to get let go? And is that playing a role in everything you're building here today, making NFL caliber money in the fitness industry?
Yeah. Dude, that's a ghost I chase that I'll never catch, I understand I'll never catch. So like, had I played 12 years, won a Super Bowl championship, and felt like I reached my my potential in the NFL, and I have a lot of friends who did that, right? I'm so driven because I wasn't that, and it's like I chase, like I almost chase that demon, and that leads to this success, so I don't want to let it go. So I'm not mad at it. It's like I want to let that like just fuel my ambition, because I like that feeling. However, the difference was with that mentor, there's negative emotions like guilt, shame, fear, sadness, right? The negative emotions. Part of what I went through with him is the letting go of negative emotions. So you have to clear the negative emotions that live in that subconscious. And so you think about things like, I couldn't, no matter how ambitious I was, I couldn't get there because I didn't feel deserving of it. I didn't feel worthy of it. And I hadn't forgiven myself for the perceived quitting. It's like everybody might look at me and be like, you made it to the NFL, you're successful. Like who can say they did it? I'm like, yeah, but I quit. And so until I let the negative emotion, the negative sting go, then I was free to to, you know, actually
Yeah.
be successful. And so, yes, there's so many people out there that they don't have the tools that's needed to let go of those negative emotions that allows their own freedom for them to go succeed. And so they're married to the old story.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm curious how many of the guys from the league you stay in touch with, and how unique what you've done is. I mean, you'll see guys that have long lasting careers. You know, they're Pro Bowlers, they're stars in the league. They go on because of their name, their fame. They get big contracts in TV. Maybe they start investing in other companies, and they go on to continue to compound wealth after the league. I got to assume what you've been able to do is rare. I mean,
Yeah.
guys maybe get in sales, medical device sales, you know, selling insurance. They maybe make a decent living, but very few, I'm sure, probably far exceed what they made in the NFL post career. That weren't those big name athletes. Is that
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah, for the most part, the success rate of post NFL is very low. So yeah, you see some of the guys that are commentators that have, you know, built a name for themselves,
Yeah.
and, you know, put together a real, you know, second part of their life in a good way. But that's a very small percentage.
Yeah.
For the most part, there's tons of Pro Bowlers out there, or Super Bowl champions, or guys that played 10 years who made, you know, $20 million, or, you know, let's say someone made 25 million over a 10-year career. Well, cut that in half with taxes. So 25 becomes, you know, 13. Understand the lifestyle you live when you're making that kind of money. It's not a normal lifestyle. So you're going to live in a nice house. You're going to drive nice cars. You're going to buy jewelry. You're going to do this stuff. And usually what ends up happening over a 10 to 15 year period, it's not wrong, all the documentaries that people have seen. It doesn't matter if you played 15 years, 10 or 3 in my case. The large majority of people in the NFL's lives go downhill after the deal. And part of that is they still think their best years are in the past,
Behind them.
right? And they still identify as the 25-year-old version. It's like there's a whole other version that they never evolve into. And it's sad to watch, you know. And in my case, being cut at 27, having 300 grand in my bank account, there was not a lot of years that I could figure out what I was going to do. I mean, I had to open up the gym and start transacting enough that I could put food on my own table, even if it wasn't a lot. Other guys might have a 5-year window or even a 10-year window where it's like, oh yeah, like their bank balance is here, and it continuously over years declines, but there's not enough pain for them to do something about it until it's too late. It's like, oh shit, I got a year left. What am I going to do? So yeah, there's not a lot of success, unfortunately, after the dream, you know.
One thing I see in your marketing, your message, and even in the story here today is you've had to begin to, I say, live in truth. And I think you call a lot of guys out in your messaging and marketing that they're believing lies about themselves. Success, money makes them who they are as a man, and you're like, no, if you're not carrying the body behind the status, like you're a fraction of who you can be. You know, one thing we talk about in our community with the Rebuilt Man is truth is the foundation of all transformation. Can you speak to the guy out there that is maybe believing lies, whether it's about his past self, his identity, his nice guy, people-pleasing type of syndrome, the importance of walking in truth and not telling lies?
Yeah, I think it's super hard, right? Because in order to reach that truth, you have to be aware. And most people are just walking around, just, you know, they're programmed, and it's like they're not even aware. They look in the mirror and it's like, do you actually see that you have 50 pounds to lose? And it's like, on some level they know, on some level they might not care, on some level they think it doesn't matter because they might be, you know, doing well in business. But whatever it is, like any truth is preceded by awareness. And so there has to be someone has to learn to become aware of what that truth even is. And where I had to start, obviously we talked about the negative emotions. It's like, you're never going to achieve anything if you don't feel deserving or you don't feel worthy of it. And so if you know, whatever you've done in the past, it's like, you got to forgive yourself for it and decide that from this point on, like, none of that shit matters. It doesn't matter what side of the street you grew up on. It doesn't matter what color skin you are. None of it matters, right? And until people like let go of all of the stuff in the past and just decide to be something different, then nothing can change. And from there, like, to get to the truth, the question that I always want to get out of people or extract is, what do you actually want? And I think that most people don't even know what they want. Therefore, how are they going to get it? It's like, vaguely, they might want to drive a nicer car, or they want to, have a bigger house, or they want to make more money, or, they want to get fit. But it's like, no, what specifically do you want your life to look like? Right? You have to design this, like, what I would call your greatest self of all time. Right? Like, what does that person, what's your highest self look like? How does that person dress? How does that person talk? How does that person interact in the world? What does that person drive? Where does that person live? Right? What values does that person have? All of that stuff, like, needs to get out in order for the next step to occur. So to your point, it's like, you have this, like, awareness, truth, direction type of model. And if any of those pieces are missing, then the results aren't going to happen. If they're not aware, they're never going to get to the truth, right? Even if they're aware and they get to the truth, but they don't know what they want, like, there's going to be no forward motion. And so that's the work, right? That's the work. That's the work that I had to do. That's the work that you had to do. That's the work that anybody out there succeeding has to do. And one other thing that I think is important is the people that are succeeding, it's like, they have an unapologeticness about however, well they're doing. It's like, you don't see Grant Cardone apologizing for his success. You don't see Patrick Bet-David apologizing for his success. You don't see anybody apologizing for their success unless it was given to them, right? So you have to be unapologetic about what you want.
I love this idea of the designing of your ideal life, your ideal self. I'm curious what that looks like for you in practice, maybe from a visualization. I mean, I'm hearing it playing throughout in your entire life story, from childhood, professional athlete, right? Like, that was the only thing I think you ever saw yourself as doing, and you were enabled to, by taking action. So it's visualization paired with, I think, taking action. You're able to manifest that reality. I'm curious what that's looked like for you over these last 5 years, plus of this kind of arc that you guys have been on, and if you have something still to this day that you have in practice.
I was really, really, really religious with this in the past, when I call it 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Essentially, what I did in the beginning was, and this was part of my mentor's, what he taught me, is the very first thing. My very first assignment was to write out 100 material things that I wanted, and I had 48 hours to do it. And that was the assignment. Again, I paid him $40,000. I'm like, okay, like, I'll do this. I'll do this assignment. And I won't give away the takeaways for people that want to do this exercise, but for me, it was a lot harder than the exercise seems. You get to 15, and then you start to have these thoughts of, like, well, I don't need that. But there was no parameters. It's not like, it's like, okay, I want a Ferrari, but it's like, well, do you want a Lamborghini too? Do you want a Rolls Royce too? Do you want whatever it is? And your brain's going like, well, I don't need that. That's not going to make me happy.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So part of the reasoning for this is you identify mind viruses, and the mind virus is usually an equal sign. It's, this is going to make me happy. And it's like, no, happy, like, you make yourself happy. Money has nothing to do with it in either direction. So it's like, the Ferrari's not going to make you happy. And you can't say, well, I don't need that because it's not going to make me happy. Equal sign. So we got rid of all the equal signs that didn't belong, right? And so you learn a lot about yourself in exercise like that if you actually do it. You sit there and you struggle. You're like, what do I even want? And then you're like, I don't need anything. I'm already happy. It's like, that's not the question, right? So you give yourself direction. And then the next part, when I was done, I was like, thank God I'm done. He's like, okay, 100 experiences. I'm like, oh, damn, now I got to do this all over again. Experiences for me was a little bit easier. It's like, oh, I want to go to Wimbledon one day. I want to take my dad to the Masters. It's like, those things are a little bit easier for me. I want to go on this vacation. But the material things was like, somewhat difficult. So I had to go through all of that. I put all this stuff down. So I have this whole master list. The interesting thing is, years later, I go back and I'm like, oh, I have that. I didn't even know I really wanted that. I put it down. I have that. And so it sounds kind of woo-woo in this weird way, but it's like, it's crazy to go back and look at. Next is I would write a self-image state, what I call a self-image statement. I would write it in handwriting, not typed. So I'd write it, and it was all in the tense of, I'm so happy and grateful that I have achieved X, and so I am living. So it's like I'm thankful for something that I've already done, and it's like I have this car in my garage. I live in, North Scottsdale, and it's like all this stuff, vivid, like emotional words. It's not like I want to get in shape. It's like that. No, it's like I want to be in such good shape that when I wear a golf shirt, I have a fucking bicep vein crawling up, and people are wondering, if you belong on the cover of fitness magazine, right? It's like it's got to be emotional and vivid for you. And so I wrote this statement. I read it every single day, and on top of that, I recorded it in my own voice on my iPhone, and I put a little backdrop music behind it that was inspiring, and I literally listened to that on repeat for months and months and months while I was at the gym. So if my workout was an hour, the track was about 4 minutes, it was on repeat. Wow. So I'd listen to that over and over and over again. I'm not listening to, any music. I'm listening to my own voice, programming myself for months and months and months. I don't do that now because I feel like I'm much more in touch with like my creative ability, right? And my ability to create. Back then I was trying to get it. I was trying to convince myself that I was worthy of it. I was trying to convince myself that I could do it. And so there's a couple ways to program yourself, and repetition is one. You do this shit one time, you read it and you forget about it, ain't shit gonna happen. It's not magic. You don't write something down and it appears in your life. It just doesn't work like that. But think about how powerful it is in your own voice to have it repetitively hit you on a subconscious level over and over and over and over again, right? You can reach the subconscious through trance, like that's how hypnotists work, right? It's like you're in trance and boom, you can get something inserted. That's a faster way to do it. But if you want to accelerate it even more, it's like you program yourself. And there's another part of that, which is subtraction. Right now, people are programming themselves without even knowing it. What's on the news, what kind of music they listen to, what they're reading, the newspaper, social if the how the algorithms work, it's like you can open up X, go down a rabbit hole, and you think the world's ending every single day, right? And it's like every day you open up your phone and it's like you're getting the same messages about how terrible the world is. No amount of programming that you do on yourself is going to help if you don't remove all the negative programming. So for me, it was like this whole overhaul from a mental perspective. Like, don't listen to bullshit music that talks about, all the stuff that you don't want, whether it's country music about the guy losing his wife and getting drunk every day and doing that. It's like, it sounds like the music's cool. I get that you like it. Don't fucking program yourself like that, because you end up like that. And it's like, don't listen to rap music that's about, killing people and, doing all this other crazy shit too, unless you want that to be your programming. And so people, they just don't think about this stuff, right? Everything on the news is propaganda. Everything on social media is almost propaganda. They're trying to manipulate your emotional state. And if you want to break free, you have to program yourself, because nobody's going to do it. And so conscious of what you watch, conscious of what you listen to, conscious of how you're programming yourself. You know what I'm saying?
I think the thing that you said there that was so crucial, I want to make sure people pick it up, is you were doing these visualizations with the power of strong emotional, positive emotion. There's a great book on the science of the law of attraction, the science of manifestation, called Magic Mind. And it talks about this neurochemical firing within our brain when we release these positive emotions. And when you pair the positive emotion with the thing that you want, now you're beginning to create, you turn on your reticular activating system, and that, hey, that thing's important for me. And then you go out in the world and you begin to look for these things. You begin to look for the opportunities to bring these things into reality. And that's what I'm hearing you did, whether it's in the gym, releasing endorphins and neurochemicals within the brain, hearing this story. I'm so happy and grateful for these things, that writing them in the present tense. You're obviously doing the attraction piece, but there's proven neuroscience behind a lot of this. I don't want to make sure.
And even quantum physics, right? It's like waves and particles. It's like, reality is not as solid as we think. And so, I'm in a complete agreement with you. It's tuning your focus.
Yeah.
Right. And as soon as you do that, it lights up all the opportunity. And then from a quantum mechanical standpoint, the waves turn into particles.
Yeah.
One of my other favorite books in thought leaders is Neville Goddard, which, the feeling of the secret and acting in accordance to, what you expect. Because let's say that you're going to look at a truck and you want and I did this. So this is kind of like a real story. It's like, I wanted a Ford Raptor, right? That was like the car that, back when I didn't have very much money, I'd drive to the gym and I'd see these dudes get out of a Ford Raptor. I'm like, dude, that's the car I want, man. Those are so badass. It's just like, I want one of those trucks. And so I went to look at them and it's like, damn, they're kind of expensive, And so then I went to the Dodge dealership and I got the Dodge Rebel when it came out. And every time I looked at the fucking truck, I was just like, it's not, as much as I wanted it to be like the Raptor, it just was not. It was not. The T-Rex is now more similar. The Rebel back then, not. Neville's teaching is simply, if I really expected to make it rain, I would have bought the Raptor.
Yeah.
And that would have changed the reality that I would be living in the future. Is because my expectation was that I was not going to make it rain. So I made this other decision, which then whatever you do, you're going to prove yourself right. And that sounds crazy to people, but I've lived my life and stretched myself so much over the past 5 years. And that teaching is ingrained in my mind. It's not actually what you say you want. It's the decisions that you make that back up whether you actually believe it. Because you can say you believe you're going to make it rain or be rich one day. But if all your decisions are counting pennies and counting and cutting out Starbucks and budgeting and making smart decisions over the risky ones, it's like you actually don't believe yourself based on your behavior.
Yeah.
And that's just going to take you down the reality that you're living. And so you can just change it. But people don't know that.
When you spoke last year at Vincent event, you had us, we didn't have 48 hours. You gave us, I think, 5 or 7 minutes to do that 100 material belongings and 100 experiences. And I remember hitting that ceiling around 12 there as well. It's like, the car. And then I'm getting through car, house, vacation. Then it was like, well, I wrote one car already. I really don't need the second one. I already got the one. And I'm going to go and finish that because I didn't do it after the event.
It's one of those things. It's like, what's the point? But you actually learn a lot about yourself because it's not about what you put down on the paper. It's the conversations that if you're listening to yourself, that voice in your head. Sometimes people are like, man, I hear my mom. It's like, you don't need that. I'm like, what does that voice sound like? Is it you? And sometimes people's like, no, that's my mom.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. Right? And it's like people break through on something very, very simple because, again, the programming starts from 0 to 7. At that age, you have no real say. It's like whatever your environment is, whatever your parents are, like that's you can't really change that until you revisit it later, right? As you get consciousness from 7 to 14, it's still like you don't have a lot of say. Like my daughter's, she's going to be 8. It's like, she's now conscious, but it's like mom and dad still make most of the rules, right? We're very conscious parents now knowing this stuff, but it's not really until you're 18 plus. It's like, okay, you make your own decisions. But that programming, sometimes it's surprising to people that, it goes all the way back to childhood and they can hear their own mom or dad's voice telling them certain things.
When mom, dad, and before the age of 7, they're spending 6-8 hours outside of the home there as well. I think it was done in the UK. I remember hearing a study. They had a microphone connected to a classroom of kindergartners or first graders, and 60% of the words that these kids heard on a daily basis were from a negative context. No, sit down, you can't do this. No, and it was all this programming stuff that parents, they can be doing an amazing job at home, and if they don't know what's happening 6-8 hours, I mean, you get to a certain point where those 7 to 14 years, more time is spent outside of the home than it is in the home.
Yes. You got to be, I mean, as parents, after I it was like I was kind of until I learned all this stuff, I was just walking around like everybody else. It's like reality's reality. It's like you're not even thinking about this stuff. Once it's like you step into the matrix, and every word, I can be in a conversation with somebody and listening to them for 2 minutes, And it's like what they're saying is revealing their worldview to me. And it's like I can't escape that. Now I'm in the matrix. Like I hear everything. And, most people don't, they're just not aware of it. And I've used that in my marketing. Every word is important. It's like I scrutinize every single word because I know the power of communication. So
is there a story, a thought, a ceiling now that John is working through that's going to take you guys? You talked about this arc that you went on 1, 3, 8, 20 plus 50 this year. I know your dreams and visions of what you guys are going to do here is far beyond what you've done this year. Is there a story that you're having to continue to work through or rewrite now?
Yeah, I remember like going through a couple exercises, again, same mentor, and he's like, write a number down on a piece of paper that you want, right? That you feel like you can achieve. And it's like, this was before I had ever done 10 million. It was like in that 2 million mark. And so for me, like I wanted to put $1 billion down. Not that that's my ultimate goal, but I couldn't get myself to do it at that time because it was like, that was just unrealistic, right? And so I remember being like, 10 million still felt like a big jump at that point. I remember writing down like 100 million and circling it. And, that was like, if I pushed myself clear, if I had enough time, like, could I do that? Possibly, right? So there were still ceilings throughout this journey. It's like you have to almost like re-explore that at a lot of times. And so currently, like, we're on a trajectory over the next 3 years. Like 100 million a year is like, that's inevitable over the next 3 years. It's like, that's not scary. That's not like, oh, that's crazy. That's just like, that's where we're headed. We have the right talent. We built a machine. Like, we have a plan. All we have to do is execute it, and we're hitting 100 million. There was some people in the business world that was talking about like, well, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to sell the company? Like, do you want to IPO it? And I'm just like, IPO, like, what are you talking about? And not that I even want to IPO the company, right? I'm not saying I do or I don't. And I'm just like, that rubbed up against my boundary immediately. Like I'm aware of this. I'm like, cause when they said it, it's like, I immediately like discounted it. It's like, what do you think we are? This is, as big as some people think we are. I'm like, we're just a, online fitness company. What are you talking about? And then as luck would have it, a couple days later, I get invited to a birthday. It's up at the country club, sit down. One of the guys, bought and sold a sports team. So, billionaire, and his friend, I was sitting right next to him. And I'm kind of a quiet guy, like I'm not the guy at the table that's going to go around and just talk to anybody. And I'm sitting there and he sees this watch and he's like, I love that watch. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I take it off and he's looking at it and opens up the conversation. And this guy's IPO'd 2 companies, right? And he's a founder of a very, very big company that everybody would know about. But anyways, for the next 2 hours, like he's just talking business and he's like, tell me again about like how you've done this and all this stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, like, there's a pathway to any of these options, not saying any of them are right. And I'm just like, dude, that's so crazy, like sometimes you rub up against the boundary and it takes a couple examples or just a story from somebody who's done it and it completely shatters your paradigm of what's even possible. And so to answer your question, I'm operating right now in this place of like, I don't know, I'm not even considering the ceiling. Like the ceiling is I can't see the ceiling. It's like we're free to go create whatever it is that we want. We have one shot in this life to take our best swing, and like both me and my wife and the whole team, it's like, let's take that swing together. Let's see what we can do. So it feels good to be free, but I want everyone to know it's like that took me a lot of years to go through. And another thing, if somebody's like, well, how can I believe more, or how can I shift those beliefs faster, is I think a question like some people want to know. One of the best things that I ever did was move. I moved from Salt Lake City, which is a great place, to Scottsdale, Arizona. And not just anywhere in Scottsdale, like up north, like North Scottsdale, right? And so there's this area up here that's like, you go up and down the street, you'll see 10, if if you're here for like 5 hours, you'd see like 4 or 5 Ferraris, Lamborghinis. You see all the, it's like a damn car show. And everywhere I go, people have, diamonds. Scottsdale's a kind of flashy place. And I'm like, man, everybody here has money. The golf memberships, you want to be a member of a golf club, like it's $750,000 and a 7-year waiting list. And you're just like, there's a waiting list for that many people that want to be a country club member. So one of the fastest things people can do to shift their own beliefs is if they're in North Dakota, right, and they want to see what else is out there, a lot of times environment shapes perception of what you think is possible. It's like the shark that gets, dropped in a fishbowl can grow up to 8 inches. Drop that shark into an ocean, yeah, it's more dangerous. There's a lot more risk, might get eaten by, another fish. Yeah. But if it survives, now it's an 8-foot shark, right? That would have never happened in a fishbowl. So you have to consider are you living in a fishbowl? And if you are, like, how do you take the risk and start swimming on your own in the ocean?
That's incredible. And I think you probably don't remember, but I think I shared with you that was something that I had recognized. I had almost unconsciously done to myself like 3 years ago. I went back home. I was like, I want to be close to family. I spent a lot of time. I was coaching my nephew. Like I went back to my high school hometown, and it's like there was I hit a ceiling just from an identity perspective.
I'm glad you hit on that point, dude. Not to cut you off. Like Salt Lake City was my home. I grew up there. I played college sports there. I left for like a 4-year period in the NFL. Then I came back and opened up the gym. Then I was there for another almost 9 years, right before I moved. So like Salt Lake City is like, I get dropped in Salt Lake City. It's like if I get dropped off at the airport and I start driving to my parents' house, it's like every exit reminds me of, a friend or a girl I used to date or something we did. And it's like my past gets, flooded back into memory, which I had a great childhood. Like I liked my childhood. I'm not running from any of it, but it's like that identity is super strong, right? It's like everything reminds you of who I used to be. And most people stay in that environment. So who they used to be is who they're going to be. When I moved to Scottsdale in 2020, I was free to be anything I wanted because I didn't know anybody. There was no preconceived notions of me anywhere in this city because I didn't know anybody. So it's freeing to drop yourself into another environment, and now you can recreate because you're not reminded, like who you used to be isn't pulling you back. Yeah, which is a huge piece.
I love that. Wrap it up here. Last couple things. SupraHuman, what you guys have done, incredible. I don't think it's ever been done anything similar to this. I have a lot of friends, a lot of successful friends in the fitness industry, but nowhere near what you built. 100+ employees, beautiful office, heart of North Scottsdale. You talked about, obviously the trajectory arc you guys have been on, plans for the next 3 years, 100 million, no doubt. What does that look like? 2026, we're right at the beginning of January here, at the time of this episode. What's up and coming for you guys? Any big new things, or just continuing to just crush exactly what it is you're doing?
Yeah, there's a lot of new initiatives. I won't like get too much into the details. Like I haven't even let my team know some of them, right? The executive team, we just got out of annual planning, so we have this 3-year roadmap. We have some really big moves coming up in technology, in the medical field, the medical world. There's something happening in the fitness industry that's really, I think, interesting. It's like there's tech in forms of like wearables like Whoop and Aura, and the wellness industry and longevity industry as far as like peptides and optimizing blood work and all of that stuff is like fitness is like just a tiny sliver of a greater wellness space. Yeah. And so for us is like we've done at this point, this year will end right around 50 million in really only the fitness coaching realm. And in doing so, obviously that requires a lot of a volume of very good high paying clients. So we built distribution now to where now the big move for us is like, it's not just a fitness coaching company. We want to compete in the wellness in the wellness arena, with where a lot of money is dumping in, and a lot of people are dumping their own money in because they want to be healthy. It's not that they just want to be, they want to be healthy for as long as they possibly can be. And so a lot of the stuff on our roadmap is with that in mind.
Monetizing the base of the customers and clients that you've already built.
Fitness is the entry. Like fitness is the gateway drug. Right? We're going to get you fit. Awesome. Everyone wants that, right? Even if they don't know they want it, nobody likes looking at themselves in the mirror and not respecting what they see, man or woman. Like nobody, they start accepting it and they start lying to themselves, but nobody wants to do that. So we capture them there, but then we open them to this world of performance, mental clarity, optimized blood markers, all that stuff. We can introduce to them after we capture them.
What's the community role play for you guys? I've seen some of your events. I know some people that are active parts of your program. I know you guys regularly bring your VIP clients together, I think on a quarterly basis to a big annual event. What role is community playing? And I'm sure when you bring this many high caliber people into a room there as well, it continues to force you to level up. Ideas are sparked out of some of these conversations, networking opportunities. What role and what SupraHuman is doing is community centric?
Yeah, we have one big yearly event. So we have SHX, which last year we had Ed Milet, Jesse Itzler, Urban Meyer came and spoke. And so that was like our big event for all of our clients. Then we do have the quarterly elite events that is our top clients. They usually fly into Scottsdale. We do a 1 or 2 day event. I'm very pro-human in the next 10 years, where everybody else is pro-automation and AI. I'm not saying that doesn't have its place, but where most business owners are now, they're like, we're going to utilize AI and we're going to take the human element out of it, and we're going to make everything far more automated, and we're going to be way leaner, and which is fine. I just think that people overlook a desire for human beings to connect. Like AI can be great, but it doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have a heart, right? And so people can feel that. And so for us, we're a virtual company. We want to be as efficient as possible, but I think the community aspect and getting people together is that human to human connection point, which people are going to crave more and more. And we've curated a network, hard filtered people. They have to be very successful to even be in the room. So, people come to the events and they meet other people that are very like-minded on the same mission. It's just it's a great, it's stickiness for the company, and it serves the people because they get to insert themselves into an environment that's leveled up.
Yeah, I agree. I think the pendulum is already swinging to the other side of this need for in-person stuff. I mentioned before kind of the things that we spent this year doing, community-centric and focused there as well. Like there's a craving, I think, we specifically work with men. I think it's on both sides though. There's a craving for human touch interaction. 2020 was a crazy year. World shut down. There's loneliness, epidemic crisis, all these things happening in the world. I think people are already seeking and craving, and the companies, the brands, organizations that provide that and can do it in the right way are the ones that are going to succeed in the next 3 to 5 years and beyond. So last few here, 2026, somebody wants to crush it this year, business wise, finances and fitness. What's the one thing that they should be focusing on right now?
The truth, man. You got to start there. It's like, if you've had getting fit as a New Year's resolution for a decade now, and it's always at the top of your list, and you look in the mirror and you said last year in December that you weren't going to be the guy on Christmas break sitting at the pool wearing a t-shirt because you're trying to hide your body, and yet here you still are, right? It's honoring that truth that if you could have done it on your own, whatever it is, you would have done it already. And so asking for help isn't weak. It's a sign of intelligence, because why would you try to figure something out on your own and take another 6 years and not get the result, where we can get you that result in 6 months, right? Whatever that is. And so I would say that information is not the problem. People can chat GPT the top workout program and what exactly they should eat. And if that shit worked, then you wouldn't walk out there on the street and see 90% of people in dog shit shape. And so people think they need information. They don't need information. They need execution. And, the smart people of the world and the best athletes in the world have a team of accountability. They have coaches, and they hold the line. And that's what we do for somebody that wants to get fit. And so I just think that, the first thing that anybody needs to do is they just got to be honest.
Yeah.
Don't put getting fit as another New Year's resolution if you've done it for 10 years and you're still here.
They got to make 150K.
They got to make 150 to be in our program,
Yeah.
right? If they're not in our program, there's plenty of other programs,
Of course.
right? And the reason is it's just expensive,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's an expensive program. It starts at 10K, which that might be expensive to some, might not be expensive to others, but it's like, if you are struggling to put food on the table, it's like you probably need a cheaper solution than what we're going to provide.
Yeah. And there's endless
And there's
ones.
nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
Nothing wrong with that. You can do push-ups every day. You can stop eating fast food and eat single ingredient foods. There's a lot of stuff you can do. You can get the information online and then go to a $9 a month
Yeah.
Planet Fitness and go do the work, right? Like our solution is for guys who are, again, executives, entrepreneurs, super busy. They travel all the time. They got a million things going on. It's like they don't want to look up a program and try to wonder if they're doing it right. They want a coach to tell them exactly what to do, when to eat, how much to eat, how to work out, how many sets and reps to do, how much rest they should have. They want it all mapped out, and then somebody to hold them accountable and help them execute it. And they pay for speed. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
But it's available to everybody.
It's available to everybody.
Yeah.
And, one underlying message, I think, in everything we talked about here today, at least for you and your story, is taking action, taking the first one, not knowing every plan figured out from the time that you were in high school trying to get in college. I didn't know how I was going to get on a football team, but I'm going to take this first step. Well, now I'm going to walk into Urban Meyer's office. Now I'm going to start this gym. Now I'm going to hire this coach, invest 40K, not knowing what the next step was. I took that first step. So for anybody out there that is looking to change their life, all you got to do is take that first step. So, John, this has been an absolute honor, man. I appreciate all your time here today. Episode 319, we've ended with the same question every single time. I'm going to spin it a little bit. Normally, I ask, what does it mean to live a superhuman life? But obviously, your brand is very similar in the language. What does it mean to be superhuman?
If you look up suprahuman in the dictionary, it's having powers above and beyond those of a normal human, right? And that's not something that you have to go get. That's something that lives inside of you right now that you have to give yourself permission to go pursue. So in my mind, becoming superhuman is this idea of excellence is earned. You have to earn it. But it lit like that fire lives inside of you. You have all the tools that you need. You just have to learn how to express it.
Yeah.
Right. And when you do, you start living like a superhuman, because you do feel like you have powers above and beyond all the people that are just mindlessly walking around.
Yeah. Love it. Guys, there you have it. From the superhuman himself, John Madsen is already resting inside of you. All you got to do is start with truth, take that first step. Guys, we hope you appreciated and got value out of this episode. If you did, as always, make sure to subscribe, hit that rate, review, and share this one with as many people as possible. We hit the top 10% in Spotify all of last year. It's because of you guys out there sharing these episodes. So our goal is top 5% in 2026. So we need your help in doing that. John, my brother, welcome.
Thank you, bro.
Appreciate it, Jimmy. Thank you.
Bro.
Guys, we'll see you next one.